What is going on, everybody? How are you all doing? It is Tuesday, and that means it's time for the Just Gonna Say It podcast on Dylan Talks Tone. I hope everybody's having a good week so far. You saw the thumbnail, and you saw the title. I am interested in a thing today, and I'm going to ask you a question. We're going to get to some stuff, and I want you to get in the comments and tell me what you think about it, because it's I'll tell you how this all came up. It's kind of an interesting thing that I think is a fascinating social observation, if that makes sense. That I think is kind of neat. So, before we get going, a couple of things. Get in the you'll see in the comments down below. And somebody's texted me right now asking me if something showed up in the UPS today, and it did not. I believe it will be here on Thursday. Yeah. So, do me a favor. In the links below, there's a bunch of stuff, things that support the channel. Obviously, Dylan Talks Tone. Leslie gets on me for not saying enough that we make pickups here. So, DylanTalksTone.com. There's a link below, and it is down there for those of you that get in the comments and be like, I don't know how to find your website. DylanTalksTone.com. It's down there, so you can check it out. And we make Strat pickups and Tele pickups and humbuckers and bass pickups and all kinds of stuff over there. And that's our real job. That's what we do. And then also StuMac has been supporting us with some stuff. I just spoke with StuMac. They're sending me some neat things. And I literally emailed her today. I was like, I want some nut stuff. So we're going to talk about some nut stuff in the next couple of weeks, which is really cool. So check out the links to StuMac down there, as well as Sweetwater, where I buy most of my guitars. And yeah, so cool. Very cool. So you saw the thumbnail there and the title of the video. So I want to ask you, and you can get in the chat if you like, and also, in the comments down below if you're watching this in replay. It will be available on all the podcast platforms, and it also will be available on Patreon ad-free, probably tonight. How do you own your guitars? This is a weird, I'm trying to figure out how to frame this question properly. Do you own your guitars because of their monetary value, or because you actually like them and the way they sound and stuff? I would have thought, this is so interesting to me. I would have thought that the majority of folks would say, and I still think this is true, actually. I think this is true probably, that the majority of folks would say, I like my guitar. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter what brand it is. This is not dependent on brand or anything. I like my guitar because it sounds X or Y, or I like my guitar because it feels a certain way. I like my guitar because the neck is cool. I chose my guitar because blah, 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 blah. Whatever. All those reasons, right? There's no wrong answer for this. But in the last couple of days, I've done a couple of surveys that have made me wonder how many people actually put a currency, and this sounds dumb to say because all guitars are worth something, a currency value on their guitar that surpasses the value of the actual instrument for the playing and the enjoying of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? I did a survey on YouTube, and I did a survey on Facebook. It was just comments. I did not put any editorial, nothing at all. I just said, if you could have, and I worded it wrong on YouTube, I do realize that, but the intention was, if you could have this or this for free, which one would you pick? And it was an Epiphone Les Paul, and it was a Gibson Les Paul. Now the brand is, I know that brand is a little inflammatory, but that was not the intention of it. The intention wasn't the actual brand itself. It could have been a Squier and a Fender. It could have been whatever. And 90%, I think it was, hang on, let's get the actual number here to be accurate for our purposes. Here we go. 91% of people said that they would take, this is 2,000 votes now, that they would take the Gibson Les Paul over the Epiphone Les Paul. That's not a surprise, right? That makes sense. Most people would choose that. The surprising thing to me in this conversation, which I find super fascinating. Also, if you have guitar questions, you can get in the comments and ask them. I'll try to get to them. And if there's a super chat, I will see that and I will stop what I'm doing and I will answer that question. Just FYI. The surprising part was not the 91% of people, and we could, if guitarists actually had a sense of humor, and I know they do not, make a joke about those 9% actually lying. And I know they weren't. It's just kind of funny. Okay, so the surprising part is if you go through the comments on that, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, this is just literally a surprise to me. There were 96 comments on this survey and about 100 comments on the one on Facebook. And there were many who only cared about the financial gain that they would get from owning a Gibson so that they could buy more cheap guitars. It was a financial transaction to them. There was no thought to, I've always wanted one of those. Yeah, I would take it if someone gave it to me. That would be super cool. It was, oh, that guitar is worth a lot of money. I could sell it and buy something else that I want. There was a financial thing to it. Now we're talking about something that you were given for free. So as you play guitar and as you choose your instruments, how much, and I don't mean this in can you afford it? I saved up for it, whatever. It doesn't matter how you get your guitar. I don't care. If somebody gave you 100 guitars, it wouldn't matter to me. If you saved up for all your guitars, if you can afford them, if it took you 10 years to save up for them, it does not matter. This is not a conversation about what you can afford, but it is a conversation about what you value in your instrument. So let's get into these comments and see if there are anything. My hobbies are not investments. I get that. And again, we're not even going to entertain conversations about this one is better than that one, because that's not what it was about. I wanted to understand what people valued in their instrument. Somebody on Facebook really laid into me about that, about, basically me being negative to Epiphones. Well, obviously, those of you that follow the channel a long time know I'm not negative to Epiphones. We have tons of, I buy them with my own money. Like, this is not, so that's not it. So it wasn't even, we could have put Fender and Squier in there and it would have been just as inflammatory. You know what I mean? Because there's this perception that a guitar worth more is better. Obviously, the best guitar is the one you have, right? And the best guitar is the one that makes you feel the best when you play it. But why do so many people put that monetary, like what the guitar is worth is more than how fun it is, right? And for me personally, it's a mentality that I can't understand, because I don't think that. I think differently, actually. The monetary value of my guitars means little to me. I buy guitars that have iconic body shapes or pickup combos. Just bought an Epiphone SG Special for $400, and I bought a $4,000 PRS Studio in December. I love both. So what you're saying is you find things about a particular instrument and you want that thing until you get that thing. I'm kind of the same as you. I have, I think I explained this a little bit in the acoustic video yesterday. that I have kind of two sets of guitars, right? I have the set of guitars that is for projects for the channel that kind of just come and go. And then I have the guitars that are like mine, in my personal life, if that makes sense, away from YouTube. And I just have a list, right? Like I have a list of cars too. I have a list of cars that I want to own. I have a list of bikes that I want to own. I have a list of guitars that I want to own. I have a list of knives that I want to own because I like trying things. And so I place value on, okay, there's an experience out there that I have not had yet. So therefore I want to have that experience. I never think about resale value. Do I? No, I don't really think about resale value, but let's just be honest about this. I'm in a unique position because I have so many of you that watch this stuff that if I want to sell something, it's pretty easy for me to sell something, right? Because I have a bigger audience than the local Craigslist, if that makes sense. So I realize that I'm coming from a place of privilege with that. So let's just get that out of the way, that if I want to sell something, I can usually find a buyer. So me saying that's probably not fair. And I do understand that. Like, let's not, I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of turn there. So I don't really worry about resale value, but genuinely, that aside, I actually don't, because I just like trying stuff. I worry about resale value a little bit more with cars, as if they are my regular daily driver. If they are a car to be experienced for the experience, or a motorcycle, I don't care about resale value at that point. I will keep it long enough. I will flip it. I will do something to make it worth it. And if I lose a little money, then that was part of that experience, if that makes sense. And that's kind of the way I feel about guitars too. I'll be very honest with you. I spent $17.99 for that Gibson G-Hole acoustic, and I sold it for $1,500. I quote unquote lost money on it. I didn't really, because I just sold a used guitar and I kept it. And I also value the time of experience with the guitar. So I've had it this many months. I used it in a couple of videos. I didn't feel like that was a loss, but I had to calculate that in. So for that purpose, I do think about money with guitars, but I also don't care. I just want to try the stuff. Even if the guitar is $300, like we have a $300 guitar behind us right over here that we're going to try. I only worry about a guitar that I'm not buying in person and could not try it first. I get that. Okay. Makes sense. I don't have any expensive guitars because I can't afford them. I built two of my guitars so that I could play something with a good fit and finish, but they weren't worth anything to anybody but me. Dude, see, that's super cool. So I understand you putting money in there a little bit, but you're creating an experience for yourself. You're focusing on creating an experience. You know that you have to do a particular thing to create that experience. And I think that is super, super important. I think focusing on the experience of what the instrument gives you back is the thing that should matter, right? Because that's what music is. That's what music is. Music should not be, and creation should not be, a transactional thing. It should be a thing that gets inspired by an experience, another experience, a song, something you hear, having a child, whatever, some sort of life experience or some sort of something, or the feeling that you get from an instrument. It should be an inspirational thing to create music, not a transaction. And I guess that's what I'm getting at with this whole thing. I was very surprised how many people were purely transactional about their reaction and interaction with these posts about these guitars. I was really actually interested in it and very surprised by it. I didn't think it was a thing. I guess I thought it was a thing. I mean, I know some people would do it, but it was much more than I thought. If I sell a guitar at a loss, I just think of it as renting a cool guitar for a little while. Martian Murray, that's kind of my thought. Now, if you have it for 2 weeks and you lose $500 on it, then you're like, well, that might not have been a smart idea. But if you've had it for a while, You really enjoyed it. That's the way I am with cars too. I'm like, I put this many miles on it. I went on this many trips. I had this many experiences. We've got this many pictures. You know what I mean? Like I've used that thing, and I feel like that time period. Okay, if I amortize this out now, it makes a lot of sense and it feels good, right? Then you kind of get a good feeling from, okay, I lost $500 on it or whatever. But there is a little tip over point, right? Like if you have a guitar for, 2 weeks and you lose $500 on it, it doesn't feel that great. So you want to avoid doing that. But I do understand what your point is, for sure. Yeah. You cannot manufacture Inspirato. Tenacious D. That is exactly 100% right. I have a saying. This is literally, and this is all through my life. It's all about dollars per smile for me. I think about the smile first and then the dollars. And what I mean by that is, if I want something like a Les Paul, now I've wanted a Les Paul since I was a kid, and I got my first one 3 months ago. And 2 months ago, whatever it was, 3 months ago, I guess I got it in December. It took saving, it took flipping, it took, you know what I mean? Because it was an expensive guitar. It took saving up money. It took flipping other stuff. It took making it happen because I really, really wanted that thing. But the investment in it to me was worth it because I get a lot of smiles from it. So I think anybody can apply that at whatever price point you're at. And I talk about this a lot. And people mishear me on this. And one of these days, I'm going to find a way to articulate this properly, so that most people get this. But there is value in aspirational growth, right? Like there is value in when you first start out, and you're young and you have other responsibilities, and you genuinely can't afford something and you buy the entry-level model of whatever that is. Let's say it's a Squire Affinity. There is something of value of never settling and of having the custom shop Strat on a poster on your wall. Or for me, it was the white Lamborghini Countach when I was a kid, or the Porsche 911, or, the Les Paul, or the real Strat. You know what I mean? And I think some of these other brands and some of the way marketing of musical instruments has changed in the last 5 years, especially, has diluted that concept of like the aspirational thinking of like dreaming to have a cool thing and dreaming to enjoy a cool thing. And allowing people to get to a point where they're like, well, I'll settle for this. And it's actually better because I can buy 5 cheap ones that are just as good as the expensive one, which we know that to not be true. We know that's not true. We know that the entry-level guitars are entry-level guitars, and there is a reason for it. We know also that many, many people who those guitars are intended for find great value in them. So it does not make them worse. It just makes they hold justifiably a particular part of the market, and that is good. But it also kind of dilutes the idea that you would save up for the dream thing that's on the wall, like the white Lamborghini Countach or the Les Paul or the Strat or the whatever it is. And I wish that we could get back to valuing the hobby for just the hobby and valuing the creating side of all of this for the purpose of like really inspiring. People say that music sucks now. I don't agree, number one. But number two, if you worried less about all this stuff and just went and played and allowed yourself to dream and allowed yourself and didn't worry about, well, if I sold a Les Paul, I could get 5 Epiphones. Like, that is why. There's no inspiration in that. Like, that's why music sucks, is because that mentality sucks the wind out of inspiration. And I know that is my personal opinion, and I know that some people may find that offensive, but I don't mean it to be offensive. I want it to be a thought-provoking process that maybe you think about when you're in the shower. That's, you know what I mean? Like one of those where your mind's wandering, you're driving down the road and you got the windows down, you're listening to some good music and you're like, you know, I got to think about this. Like, yeah, dreaming, like staring out the window, daydreaming, like, dude, I should start saving up for that guitar that I've always wanted. I keep telling myself I can't afford it. But you know, if I save up for the next 2 or 3 years, I could afford that expensive PRS, or I could, and if I decide to do something different in the meantime, at least I got something to reach for, dream about, or be inspired by. Instead of being constantly on the treadmill, the machine that just sucks the inspiration out of this entire experience. I think that's the disconnection that I've had in the last few months with this channel, with this business, with everything, is like, what is that disconnection? And getting back to that and just having fun with it. And so having these conversations about this, I think are really valuable. Adam Knox says, I look at guitars as tools. If I were a professional musician, I would want the best guitar possible. I am a hobbyist, so I have the best I can afford. You know what? And I tell everybody the same exact thing you just said. Buy the best guitar you can afford. Don't put yourself in a bind. But also, don't stop dreaming of the one you can't afford. Otherwise, you'll never get there. And I'm not saying that it's some kind of like ladder that you're supposed to climb for some sort of status or whatever. The people that say, you know, you're buying a Gibson just because of the name on the headstock and the status symbol, is that really true, or is that just salty? You know what I mean? It's don't pull the dream out from under somebody else just because you don't have the imagination to do it yourself. We all have different perspectives on life. It's just an interesting thing to think about, you know? I like thinking about the creative side of all of this stuff, which I really, really like doing. I signed in late. How is Leslie feeling? I hope she's feeling good. Yeah, she's good. She was just really out of it for like 2 days, really not feeling well, but she came around. And no actual like diagnosed illness, just she was just having a couple of off days. So yeah, you know, that was cool. Smiles per mile on motorcycles. Yeah, man. Exactly. I grew up cutting pictures out of catalogs. I still do the same thing on Sweetwater with my wish list. That is what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm glad to hear this from everybody today, because I didn't want to think that just because the majority of what I heard over the last couple of days and a couple of hundred comments was the majority of people. I don't think it is, but it makes you feel like that because that's all you see. One of the dangers of oh, hang on. Let's see. Maybe instead of asking the question, what makes an expensive guitar good or great, I should ask, what makes a cheap or inexpensive guitar bad? You know, here's the thing, though. And I think this is one of the things that people also misunderstand about Dylan Talks Tone too. And I'll say it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. There is no such thing as bad gear in 2023. All of it's really good. So it's not good or bad. It is how much value you get out of a particular instrument. And some people will get a lot of value out of an inexpensive instrument, which makes it good. Some people will get more value out of a more expensive instrument, and that makes it good for them. So it doesn't matter. There's no bad. There's some guitars that need some work once in a while when you pull them out of the box, but there's not really bad. You don't end up, you don't get a guitar usually anymore that's consistently terrible, and we could say all we want about Fender quality or Gibson quality or whatever, but when you look at the numbers, if you figure, what did we say in our video? Let's just do a quick calculation here. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say it was about 500. So let's say 900 times 22. So let's say that Fender United States makes just under 20,000 guitars a month. And Gibson, they make about 11,000 guitars a month. And PRS, I believe, somewhere between 300 and 400 a month. I think they don't make very many. So that's about 32,000 guitars a month made by two brands. So let's break that down. So we go on the internet and we go to Gear Page and we see 3 or 4 people, half a dozen. Let's call it a half a dozen. Hell, let's call it a dozen people that have legitimate, not setup, and not like stuff that the guitar shop should have caught, but actual issues with their guitars. Let's say there's a dozen on Gear Page or in a Facebook group or whatever. Out of 12,000 American guitars that are made in the month of March. But then because of the scale of social media, let's say it blows up and 30,000 people see those posts. That's not problems with 30,000 guitars. That's the same dozen. But because of the compiling of social media and how it scales, now there's 30,000, 50,000 people that find out about it. And now they're all reposting it and it's terrible. And Gibson quality sucks. And PRS, didn't do something on one guitar or the reason I know this is because you see the same pictures of guitars circulating around the internet. I pay attention. Fender's the same way. And not only that, oftentimes it goes through a couple of shifts a month. Maybe it goes a couple of months and then they clean up a problem. Fender's already cleaning up the problems that we've seen from a few months ago. But because of the way it scales out to the dealers and stuff, we're not seeing it quite yet. Now I'm getting stuff directly from manufacturers, not from the press people, but actually, I just bought a guitar at Gibson Garage. So those things, what I'm saying is the scale of the numbers just dictates the facts are that the number of bad guitars in the world is very, very low by percentage. It just so happens that we hear about them a lot by the way they scale. So I don't even think that's a problem. So good or bad to me is an irrelevant phrase. I don't think that you can say, is this guitar better than this guitar? I don't even think that's a relevant phrase. What you should spend your time, this is my opinion, and I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to tell you what to think, but what I think guitar players should spend more time thinking about not is this guitar better or worse, is this guitar for me? Because that will Two things. Who was the guitar intended for by the manufacturer? Number one. And number two, am I the person? Is this guitar for me? Let's take an example. We'll use 3 levels. We'll use a Squier Affinity. We'll use a Player Stratocaster, and we'll use an American Pro 2 Stratocaster. Okay, so we've got a $300 guitar, we've got a $900 guitar, we've got a $1,700 guitar. So the Affinity guitar is not bad, and the phrase "for the money" doesn't even make sense either. Who were those 3 guitars intended for? The Affinity guitar is an actual entry-level instrument. It is meant to get a beginner guitar player hooked on the Fender brand. It is an entry into the brand, hoping that they have aspirational thoughts that have not been poisoned by the internet yet, that they say, oh, one of these days I'm going to get a Player Strat, and then one of these days I'm going to get a American Pro 2, and all the while I've got the Stevie Ray Custom Shop Strat on my wall because I am like jonesing for that one of these days because that's who my idol is. That doesn't mean that the Affinity Strat is as good as anything else, but it also doesn't mean it's bad. The Made in Mexico Strat, the Player Strat, is for a player. For probably 90% of the guitar players on the earth is for the guitar player. That's why they call it that. Then they have the Player Plus with a couple of little fancy bells on it, noiseless pickups and etc. But the Player Strat is just the Player Strat. It's just a good Stratocaster. Now we could get into quality and that sort of stuff. The fret ends have been a little wonky lately, and they'll get a handle on that stuff. I trust that they will, because they always do. It kind of goes in cycles, right? It kind of goes like, oh, we have a bunch of problems. They obviously fired a bunch of people and whatever. That stuff will all level out. No big thing. It's going to be let's say it's a 6-month cycle and they clean it up. And then that makes it about a 12-month cycle by the time those guitars get through distributors and get to the guitar store that you order from. You know what I mean? So, okay. So let's say by this time next year, Player Strats are going to be fine. And the ones that you get now with some sharp fret ends, we've got some videos coming out. We'll help you. We'll get it fixed. No stress. Okay. So quality aside, the Player Series guitar is for a guitar player, not for a beginner player, but for most of us who just play guitar. We just play guitar. Then there's the American Pro 2. Guess what? It's in the name again. So you have an American Pro 2. The intention is for somebody to go gig that guitar. That is what that guitar is for. That is why it is made that way. That is why it is spec'd that way. It's why it comes with those particular pickups. It's why it really more leans toward a traditional Telecaster with some modern upgrades that make it playable in many situations. I've got the Tele version here. It's really good. So each of those 3 guitars are marketed for a particular person. So instead of saying, is the Affinity guitar, which one's better? Is this one just as good as this one for the money? And Googling all that stuff and having all those conversations in Facebook groups, I think that most guitar players should not worry about good or bad, because all those guitars are going to be good. They're all going to be good. Yes, quality, that's a thing. We need to talk about that. But all of those guitars are good, and they are all spec'd for a particular reason to hit a particular price point and be for 3 different guitar players. Which guitar player are you? That is where you need to spend your time. And then if you do that if you understand who it's intended for and you understand who you are or who you are aspiring to be, because maybe you're like trying to level up. Maybe you're like, well, I have an affinity now. I would really like the next one. You know what I mean? I'd really like that. So just dream, save, and buy it. Don't think about if it's good or bad. Pick a color. Go. Just do it. That's it. We don't need to worry about all that. This is like one of the only industries where you do that. This is one of the only industries, hobbies that I've ever been in where there's like levels and where like people cross shop and cross criticize all this stuff because they put monetary values on everything. Provided you're buying what you can afford, then beyond that, it's pick a color and have a nice day. I mean, they're all good. Everything is good. And I think that is what we need to remember, is that it's all good. Now I'm talking about the main brands, the main reputable brands that we all know and love. If you get off into the weeds with a bunch of knockoff stuff, I can't help you because I don't live in that space. But when we're talking Fender, Gibson, PRS, Ibanez, EVH, Charvel, Schecter, you know, all the normal ones, Kramer, all the normal ones that we know and love. And I think if we think that way, it keeps the world a better place because we're not so critical of everything all the time. It gets you out of this whole, I'm just going to get in here and comment because I think this guitar sucks. You know what I mean? Because that's not what you're thinking about. I'm thinking about, let me tell you what I'm thinking about. When I see a new guitar come out, so we're going to shoot the news tomorrow morning, right? And there's going to be a bunch of new guitars come out. Here's what I look at. And this is why I think this is interesting, because in the comments tomorrow, after the video, there will be people. I don't even know what brands we're going to talk about because I haven't even looked at it. But there will be a person, and it will be insert brand here. Those guitars suck because I knew a guy one time. Or those guitars aren't worth what they cost, blah, 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 blah. And it immediately takes the whole conversation downhill. When I look at a guitar, when I look at the news tomorrow, I'm like, okay, I have two hats here. I have two hats. One, it's me because I like guitar stuff. And then the other is the YouTube channel guy. So let's handle the me first, like the normal guitar player guy. So I'm looking at the news and I'm like, oh, X or Y brand is coming out. That's a $299 guitar. Wow, that's pretty neat. I don't want it, but that's pretty cool. There's another guitar that's coming out. I don't care how much it costs, whatever. I'm like, I can't see myself playing that. That's not kind of my vibe. Like a solar guitar with an Evertune, for example. It's just kind of not my space. That's not what I dream of. What is my next dream guitar? Well, the Carina Explorer that came out last week was immediately, I was like, I have to have one of these because this is a thing that I've always aspired to own and I have always dreamed of having it. I can see myself playing it. It's at a price point that I can make happen more or less. And boom, now I want this particular guitar. I don't go through the whole thing thinking this guitar sucks, that brand, whatever, that thing's not worth it. This $399 guitar is good for the money. I don't think any of that stuff. Now because I want to be inspired to pick the next thing. I want to be inspired to want, sounds dumb to say, but I want to be inspired to want the next guitar and enjoy learning about the next guitar and enjoy dreaming of the next guitar. That's what I think. Why don't we spend more time doing that? So then I have to put on the YouTuber hat and go, okay, so that's for one stack of guitars. And then the other stack of guitars is, okay, now I need to figure out this $299 guitar. What is probably going to be good about it and what might be its weaknesses? Well, these are known to have kind of crappy switches. These are kind of right now known to have bad fretwork. Maybe I should get one of those and see how bad it is, because I bet it won't be as bad as the internet says. And then if there's a couple things we need to fix, I'll make a video about it and it'll help some people out. But I never look at it and be like, this brand, because I had an experience with it 5 years ago or 1980, I played a Line 6 pod and therefore all digital stuff is bad. That still happens in my comment section. So yeah, just thinking about the possibility of the future. I wanted to share all of this today because I just really like the future, looking forward, thinking forward, understanding where are we? What are we even talking about? Why do any of us even do this? And the focus on the money over the aspirational concept of having a cool guitar kind of scared me. And I wanted to share that with you. I think it's really important to think about that. Because it will also inform your intentions when you comment on stuff too. You know what I mean? I think it'll inform your intentions when you comment on social media and when you share as part of the community, because focus on the cool stuff. I always think about, if I were to be gone tomorrow, would I be known for the stuff I liked or the stuff I didn't like? And I hope that people know that I love carbon fiber guitars and I think weird stuff is cool. And he always liked really weird stuff, not he hated blah, 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 blah. And I know that there's going to be the Harley Benton people out there, so I respect your position. I don't hate them. I just don't buy them. You know what I mean? So if you're going to be gone tomorrow, are you going to be the guy that was always in the comments, not contributing in a positive way to the hobby? You know what I mean? And I know it's a little idealism that I probably should just let go, but man, this is fun. I do love it. Your pickups are out in the weeds and they are my pickups of choice. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Let's see. People mentioned, Phil McKnight mentioned people were upset that they sold a guitar not because they loved, but it was worth more to sell now. Yeah, dude. So that's a thing. I will tell you, I have, because of what I do, I can't keep them all. And I'm not a person who regrets things. So let's just get that out of the way. I don't regret stuff. I just learn and go and learn and go and learn and go. So I'm not like a regret person in the strict psychological concept of that word. I don't do that. But no regrets. But there are guitars I wish I still had. I mean, my Silver Sky is gone. I want another one immediately. I won't get one immediately. It was a smart move for me at the time. We are structuring things around here a little differently, so I was trying to be smart, and that was a guitar that was worth a lot of money, so it made sense to sell it. But man, I miss that guitar. I don't think you guys realize it was actually a harder decision between the Fiore and the Silver Sky than you realize. People think I make that video and it was like a kind of a clickbaity thing because it was a video to make. And yes, it was a video to make, but there was a lot. That guitar came on and off the internet like 4 times. I had a hard time selling that guitar. That was an interesting one. Dylan will always be known as the champion of the MGK Telly. That's right. It's right there. You notice I haven't tried to sell that guitar very hard. Yep. Exactly. I must be missing some conversation in the comments, but anyway. Well, I wonder if we have some guitar questions put in here too, because we have a few minutes to go over any guitar related questions. Today we did a live stream where we wired up some tele wiring live, and we shared some questions that come in all the time through email. And I'm actually gonna this evening I'll probably put that video on the product page on Dylan Talks Tone where our tele wiring setups are. That was a really fun thing to do, and I may do some more of that. We might do some pickup swaps, maybe. Maybe when we put pickups in the telly that I've got here, maybe we'll do that. So you can kind of see how to put pickups in a telly. And do some FAQ stuff that way. Maybe we'll do a Strat. I've got to build a loaded pickguard for a Strat. Tomorrow or Thursday. So we might do a live stream like that again, where we build a loaded pickguard for a Strat and we answer a bunch of questions, because those are products that we have on the website and they're kind of in-depth products to order, because there's lots of choices. So sometimes it's hard, like, people send a bunch of emails back and forth and be like, well, what should I choose for this? Pots and cap, and what is the best combination of pickups together, and this and that. And so maybe we will do another one with the loaded pickguard thing. I'll build one live, but we'll start it with some of the common questions so that if you don't want to see the whole thing, you can just watch the beginning and get a bunch of questions answered. Do you tape the import telly plates before drilling to keep the chrome from flaking? If I do that, I use a reaming. What is that? If I do, I use a reaming bit so that it chips it more than it drills it. Don't use a regular twisty drill bit, because you'll chew it up. Dylan, do you have a suggestion for HSS on a Silver Sky? I know your pickups, but wanted an H in the bridge. So I have 2 pick guards here that I had traced and made custom for my Silver Sky, and I never used them, and they have single hum in them. The problem is I don't think they're 100% perfect. Like, there might be a couple of screw holes that are just a little off, and so I've never really used them. But it's really hard to do that. You have to route the guitar. If you have a Silver Sky, American Silver Sky, you have to route the guitar. Anyone knows how much sound difference I can expect from putting a series switch on a telly? Dude, that is the mod. A 4-way switch with series on a telly, the jam. You got to do it. It's so good. You always tell us you build your pickups to the tone tolerance of your spec. Do you also take into account a solid body versus a hollow or a semi-hollow? Sort of. I do have pickups that I recommend. It's more like, if you have a 335, I'm going to tell you to put DAFs or center punches in it. I'm going to not tell you to put Super 8s, 8 balls. There's a bunch of models that I would say stay away from, but I would actually put Thruxtons, DAFs, and center punches in hollow bodies. Patrick Hardy, I hope it's my loaded pickguard. I don't think it is, Patrick Hardy. And I'm glad you're here. Saves me from having to send you an email. because I believe that your pick guard, we are fresh out of, and I say we, I mean like America is fresh out of aged perloid. Now you can go on Amazon and get crappy stuff, but I use good stuff. And the good stuff that we have, there isn't any. So we can get regular white pearl, but I can't get aged white pearl right now. So that's the hang up on yours at the moment, which really sucks. So if you want to shoot me an email and maybe we can talk about some options for that. We have tons of other colors available, but the aged white pearl is no go at the moment. Did you sell that HSS black Nikita Telly relic you did with the 4-ways? That wasn't my guitar. I haven't had that guitar in probably 8 years, 6 years. The new Silver Skies have an interesting pickups. They seem to have a resistor and possibly a cap across the poles. No, they do not. They do have a volume mod, but they do not have anything on the pickups. I have a set of them. They do not have that. Going through some questions here. Just trying to find some questions, actually. Hang on. Would your tele pickups fit in a Fender Aerodyne? Yeah, they should. The control plates, I don't know about the control plates on those because the bodies are thinner on the edges, but I know the pickups will fit. Let's see. Did you get the parts to complete the Stumac pedal? No, but I talked to her about that today. And what do you think of the tone of no wax potting? I like it, but it's noisy. It makes it to where every time you touch the guitar, you can hear it. Even if it doesn't squeal, because you can get stuff not wax potted to not squeal, but it still becomes very like that when you touch the guitar, and so I personally don't like it. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Okay, go with the white pearl. Noted. Okay, noted. I will, dude, that will happen in no time at all now that I know that, because I'm 99% sure that is available. In fact, I bet we could just check right now because we have stuff in front of us. All right, so I'm literally just pulling this up so that I do not forget. And then we'll get back to some questions. Excellent. Yep, I believe we can do that. Very cool. White pearl. Boom. Done. All right. Cool. That was like on my list to take care of today. I need some recommendations on a single coil middle pickup. Is this for 2 humbuckers? Is this for a middle pickup in a Strat that you already own? I don't often recommend folks change one pickup at a time for a like pickup at a time. What I mean by that is, if you already have, let me just grab some bobbins here. If you already have 3 pickups in your Strat and you just want to replace just this middle one, I do not recommend doing that because you can end up with a bad mismatch. If you just want to change just the neck, just the bridge, just the middle, I don't recommend doing that because you can, there's 2 problems. One is, I don't know the phasing of your Strat. And it's tough to get that right. Out of the blue, it's like pulling it out of thin air. I recommend changing the whole set because then we can wind you something to match. And if there's something you don't like about your pickups, we can give you a recommendation to fix the problem that you don't like. That's super easy to do as a set, really hard to do one pickup at a time. If you have two humbuckers and you're going to put one in the middle, I like to do let's say our hot fives in between two really high output pickups, and our classic fives in between like two PAF-y kind of pickups. How are the Firebird pickups coming along? I've had my eye on one of the Epiphone olive green Firebirds. Buy that guitar. You should get one. They are really cool. And the prototypes are in a guitar in Tampa, and he loves them. And so we will be coming at you with those very, very soon. Did you put the capacitor on the volume pot in the Telecaster video this morning? No. Put it on the tone pot. I did put it on the tone pot. I can tell you that I have DAFs and a semi-hollow Ibanez AS73, and they are awesome. Thanks, Robert Hastings. I appreciate that. Here's a live stream topic for you. Is Reverb just Craigslist now? Just a bunch of scammers that want to buy your gear? Dude, I don't use Reverb at all. I don't. I don't, because I don't want to deal with, oh, there's a little scratch. No, there wasn't a little scratch. I want my money back. Nope. I don't deal with that crap. I am, as you are aware from following what I do, I have very low tolerance for BS. And so if I send you a guitar and I package it right, unless that junk is broken in half and you can document everything, you ain't getting your money back for some scratch that you put in it because you dropped it when you got it out of the box. I ain't doing that. And I'm also not doing, you sent me this pedal and it doesn't have like the sticker that came with it or the little label with the little burlap bag. Like, screw that crap. I ain't messing with none of that stuff. I'm like, the tone's not in the box. It's in the box. I actually want to put that on our boxes because we use these real basic white cardboard boxes. I say that they're discreetly packaged for your pleasure. And I want to put I've been wanting to put like a thing on it that says the tone's not in the box. It's in the box. I like that. So yeah. I don't mess around with that stuff. I just don't. I don't deal with it. I'll be receiving a set of Bonnevilles tomorrow. You will. And actually, somebody else is going to be receiving a set of Bonnevilles in a pickguard. I'm actually winding them in the morning and building the pickguard in the afternoon. That's the one. That's the one that we're probably going to make another live stream about. Reverb scares me, dude. It does me too. I honestly would rather sell on eBay because it's like more anonymous and it's harder. There's a more Reverb is like really, since it's not since eBay is not music specific, the rules are the rules are the rules are the rules. And so if you have a dispute with somebody on eBay, it just happens the way it happens. And you can't do this whole, well, I thought, and then the ratings and whatever. All that stuff's way more transparent, in my opinion, on eBay. So I would rather use eBay. But like Fat Philosopher says, I just sell the stuff to one of you. And I know you're going to dig it because you know that I take care of my stuff. So, discreetly packaged for your pleasure. That's what we do. Yeah, it comes in a white box. Can't tell what it is. Neighbors don't know what it is. Love it. Yep. Excellent. Do you have a recommendation for a humbucker size pickup to go in my Twisted Telly bridge? We do a humbucker size. So I don't do humbucker singles. But I would put I'd put a DAF on a telly every day of the week for sure. Every day of the week for sure. Awesome. Well, you guys, it's 5:00. We usually go for about an hour on these things. I really appreciate everybody. I got Tupac's face all bunched up. I appreciate everybody hanging out and listening to me rattle on about why I think you should not worry so much about bad guitars and not worry about so much of the money of the thing. Just dream and enjoy and have fun playing guitar. I think it's really, really cool. I really appreciate everybody's time that you spend with us every week. I feel like it's going to be every day this week. We have a lot of content because we have a bunch of stuff. Pedal board build, Tonex video coming. Yeah, I got a Temple Audio board, which is sweet. We're building that up right here. I got some stuff coming from Runway Audio tomorrow. I've got stuff coming from StuMac. I've got stuff. We have tons of stuff going right now. So much good content coming that I'm really excited about. So I really appreciate it. Y'all have a good night, and we will see you tomorrow for the news.